Good afternoon, everyone. As usual, I'll be giving just 1 minute to allow you guys to come in before we start the business of the day. Okay, again, I will take it up from here, even as people keep joining us. Good afternoon once again, and welcome. For those of you guys that are joining us for the first time, my name is Gango Esahaya, and I'm one of the training coordinators with the Temple Small Business Development Center. The Temple Small Business Development Center helps small businesses start and grow. We offer free one-on-one consulting and a variety of low to low-cost webinars. We are proud to be part of the nationally accredited network of the Small Business Development Centers, which has over 1,000 networks across the United States. We are here this afternoon for a webinar on Pinterest setup and strategies for small businesses. A copy of the PowerPoint and the link to the recording will be sent to all attendees. Being a webinar, all the attendees have been muted. However, we always encourage you guys to drop your questions on the Q&A or the chat box. Without further ado, please allow me to welcome our wonderful speaker, even as she takes over the floor for the presentation. Julia, you're welcome.
Thanks. All right, let me go ahead and get my presentation pulled up. And there's a bit of construction outside, so let me know if I need to speak up louder or anything like that to talk over it. Hopefully it won't get too loud. But today we are going to talk about Pinterest, specifically how you can use it as a small business. And if you guys have any questions or need clarification, like during the program, feel free to, drop questions into the chat. But I definitely have some time saved at the end for, any questions that you guys have about Pinterest. So like you mentioned, my name is Julia. My business is Julia Renee Consulting, where I offer both SEO and Pinterest consulting for small businesses. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth, but Pinterest is actually a search engine, which is why both of my focuses are on Google and on Pinterest. So Pinterest, unlike Google, is a visual search engine. So this means that when you're using Pinterest and you're typing things into the search bar, you're going to get pictures and images, graphics, instead of just like, on Google, you get like just the text. So it's a little bit different format, but the concept is the same. So people mostly use Pinterest in order to search for things. They're looking for ideas, for answers, inspiration. But there are some social media qualities. So this is why Pinterest is usually kind of lumped into the social media category. Things like you can comment or like on pins, you can follow people, but people don't really use it so much for the social media, concepts. They're more using it for the search engine. You're not really going to follow a bunch of people on Pinterest in order to kind of like see their life updates or get the latest news like you would on Facebook. It's really searching for things that people are interested in or they have questions about. So you want to make sure whatever content, and we'll get into content more too, you're putting up on Pinterest is, answering someone's question or matching what they're searching for, something like that. Just like kind of posting news articles or something like that isn't really what people are going to Pinterest to use. So why do you use Pinterest over so many other social media platforms that I swear there's like a new platform being added every 6 months? But one reason I love Pinterest is because it's a search engine. You can get traffic on from your pins for like months or even years, whereas on Facebook and Instagram, the content that you're posting typically only lasts about 24 or maybe 48 hours. Twitter, I think, is like maybe a couple of hours unless your tweet goes viral or something like that. So pins, whatever you're putting up today, can bring you traffic 6 months from now. So it's definitely worthwhile if you have a lot of content or if you're going to start content planning. Pinterest is definitely a great platform for content. Also, followers don't matter. You can get followers on Pinterest, but it doesn't matter if you have 5,000 followers or 5 followers. your content, if it matches what people are searching for, is going to be able to be ranked on Pinterest. Whereas on like Instagram, if you have 5 followers, then maybe only 5 people see your content. Whereas if you have 50,000, a lot more people are seeing your content. Except for issues with the algorithm these days. And pins can also rank on Google and on Google Images, and also Pinterest boards can rank on Google. I see this actually a lot when I'm doing keyword research for my SEO clients. A lot of times the top pages that are ranking are related to Pinterest. So you can kind of get the double traffic that way if your pin is ranking well, both on Pinterest and on Google. And then also people come to Pinterest to spend money. So almost 90% of people on Pinterest have bought something from a pin, whether that's products or services. And one cool thing, if you do have products to offer, Pinterest is really focusing more on e-commerce in the next couple of years. They just announced, I think it was last week, that they hired a new CEO who has more e-commerce experience from Google. So they are going to be kind of, I don't think they're necessarily going to be moving away from content specifically, but they are going to be having a lot more features that are beneficial for e-commerce. And then we're not going to really talk about promoted pins or Pinterest ads, since this presentation is focused on organic Pinterest. But if you are interested in kind of testing out Pinterest ads, or doing Pinterest ads over any other social media ads right now, one cool benefit of it is because people can save pins on Pinterest, with Pinterest ads, they kind of integrate seamlessly into like the way that search feed is structured. So people can actually save that pin that is an ad. And then even after you stop putting money behind it, if someone has saved it, it can continue to bring you traffic for months to years. So it's kind of nice that you can kind of invest a little bit of money in a Pinterest ad and still get the benefits from it even after you stop putting money into it. So kind of going over basics of setting up Pinterest briefly, you will be getting this presentation emailed to you. So don't worry about like taking notes or, if I go quickly through this. If you are new to Pinterest, it's super easy to get things set up. You just need, your email, a password. And then I definitely recommend setting up a business account if you are using this for your business, because that way you're going to be able to claim your website and get access to a lot more analytics. So when you claim your website, you're just going to get kind of like the snippet of code. You just need to put this, in the head section on your website. If you've done this for like Google Analytics or Facebook Pixel, it's the same concept. And if you have any issues, depending on your website platform, there are lots of articles that you can Google to, get some help on where to put this on your website. And then when you set up your profile, you can have like the profile image. You can also make that your logo or whatever images represent your business. And then you can have a profile name. And it's kind of similar to Instagram, where you can use your name or you can have a tagline. You do get a little bit more space than Instagram allows. So you can definitely add, kind of a bit of a longer tagline, or, make sure you're incorporating some strong keywords in that. And then you can choose a username. I recommend making it your business name or something related to your business name. I think Pinterest will kind of pick a name for you if you don't choose one. And it can kind of be just like random, letters and numbers. So do make sure that you're picking your own username. And then once you kind of get things set up, this is what it will look like on Pinterest. So you can see that the website, you can see the link kind of at the bottom. That means that the website has been claimed correctly. There's a little, snippet about the business. And this is a good way to kind of incorporate keywords so your profile can rank pretty well on Pinterest. You can also have a cover image. They did allow videos for a while, but they just did away with that a couple months ago. So you can only have like standalone images, but you can definitely, instead of just having a picture, you can do something like this where you have some, text on it, or, add some more information for anyone who does visit your profile. They get information both from your cover image and then also from your bio. So once you have your profile set up, you're going to set up boards. So this is definitely very different from, something like Instagram or Facebook, because you can categorize the topics that you're pinning about into different boards. I don't think there's any limit on how many boards you have. It can definitely get overwhelming to keep up with if you have 50 or more boards. So you can definitely just start with a couple of boards and add more as you need them. I do recommend keeping the boards pretty specific, so related to whatever your business content is about. So instead of just having one board that's just marketing, you can break that into social media marketing or email marketing, or even from social media you can break it down to Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, whatever you are writing about. The more specific you are, the more it's going to help these boards rank both on Google, but also on Pinterest when people are searching specifically for boards. And the more stronger keywords that you're using in the board title and board description, the more it helps Pinterest understand what this content is about. So if you're just pinning all of your content to a marketing board, that doesn't give Pinterest all that much information. But if you have a board that's, Facebook tips for small businesses or something like that, that gives Pinterest a lot more information to know more information to know what to rank both the board and the pins for. And I do recommend keeping all of your boards on brand, so you're not just confusing Pinterest and any followers that you have with, if you're pinning recipes and home design and marketing tips, that kind of thing. For anything that you want to be pinning or saving that isn't related to your business, you can have them as secret boards, so that way only you see them. I do this. I have a few different recipe boards, because recipes aren't related to my business at all, so those are definitely kept secret. And then I recommend kind of having one board that has all of your pins on it. You can name it like your business or something like that. So that way, when someone comes to your profile and they just kind of want to see things that you are, pinning specifically from your website, they can get that all in one board, rather than if you're using Pinterest to kind of, pin from your own website as well as, other related topics from other websites. They can get one board that just has, your content on it. So when you have the categories, you're going to be creating pins. So back on the first slide, when I was talking about how Pinterest is a visual search engine, this is going to be the content that ranks on Pinterest. So, unlike Google, where you can just publish a blog post or publish a page on your website, and then, the text from that is going to be what shows up on Google. For Pinterest, you need to actually create an image to have your blog post or page or whatever it is to rank on Pinterest. So and we're going to get into products a little bit. So this is specifically for, something like a blog post, or if you're linking to a YouTube video or, some other content like that. So I recommend creating a vertical image, because this is going to be what stands out the most on Pinterest. It doesn't have to be super big. Usually the 2:3 ratio is good. People were trying to create those super, super long infographics on Pinterest to take up a bunch of space, but Pinterest did wise up to that, and they started, cutting them off. So you don't need to create an insanely long infographic. You can just kind of create this simple image with a text overlay. So pins that have text on them will catch people's attention more and get more clicks on it than just photos, especially because a lot of times, the titles on the pins will get cut off if they're, long, and people, might not be able to read the title completely. So I do recommend adding text to some sort of image, whatever is related to your business, and, branding colors or something like that. But you do want to make sure that it's very easy to read. You might see a lot of times, if you're, active on Pinterest, that people are using very thin scripty font, or really small text, or using 20 different colors. So make sure it's very easy to read. It's not too busy. Even if you just want to start off with simple, Arial font in black or something like that, just to get some simple pins out there before you can, get a little creative with more colors or something like that. That's totally fine, just as long as it's easy to read. And then a lot of times pinners are using their phones. There's a Pinterest app. So you want to make sure that the text on the image is large enough to be read on a phone. I see this a lot of times where I cannot read, the text on a pin if I'm using my phone, whereas it might look a little better on the desktop. So make sure, it can be read on small screens as well as on the desktop. If you aren't very creative, you don't know where to get started, you can use Canva. It's they have a free tool with it. You can do like the paid version if you want, but the free version has, plenty. But they have some Pinterest templates already created where you can swap out, fonts and colors or something like that. And just, general templates that are, maybe blank, but have the right size. So you can, add your own text and images and things like that. So that's an easy tool to get started. And then you do want to make sure that you're using the keywords in the pin description. So when you're, adding a pin on Pinterest, you have a spot to write out the title and then the pin description. And you do want to make sure that you're using strong keywords in them, because that is what Pinterest is going to be reading to understand the pin, to know what to rank it for. They are starting to get better about reading the actual text on a pin. So if you have a graphic with text on it, but that's not quite as important as, kind of the text and the keywords that you're using in the pin title and pin description. Also hashtags. If you were using Pinterest a couple of years ago, Pinterest rolled out hashtags to use in the pin description, but they have definitely moved away from that in the past like 2 years. And they have actually said not to use hashtags anymore. So don't worry about using hashtags at all. It's really about the pin title and the pin description for Pinterest to understand, what to rank that pin for. So I mentioned keywords a couple of times. So if you don't know, kind of what type of keywords people are searching for, or like how to describe your content or something like that, there are a couple of different ways that you can do keyword research on Pinterest. So the first is just typing things into the Pinterest search bar. It will auto-populate with some other suggestions based on what other people have searched before. So you want to make sure that you are getting a little, specific. You don't want to just be trying to target the keyword design, because that can be a lot of different things. That can be branding design, it can be interior design, it can be furniture design. So you do want to make sure that you are getting specific about what your content is about. And then also, if you do need ideas for things to write about, you can also use, this search function in order to see what people are searching for, to get some ideas to match, kind of what people are already interested in. Pinterest did create a Pinterest or a keyword research tool a couple of years ago. They're still adding data to it, so I will say it doesn't have the most information yet. It's also not available in every country yet. I think it might just be the US, Canada, UK, and Australia. But this is a beneficial tool because it will show you kind of the search trends over time and how many people are searching, this particular keyword. They sort it out by month. So you can kind of see if you do have something that is a seasonal topic or about the holidays, something like that, you can see when people are searching for it. So maybe if you have a product for Christmas, you might find that people are actually searching the most for it in November when they're planning their, Christmas presents or something like that. So you want to make sure you get that product up before November, before people are actually starting to really search for things. If you try using Pinterest trends and you're not getting any information related to, the content that you're writing about or your product or something like that, that doesn't mean that people aren't searching for it. It just means that Pinterest doesn't really have that data yet. So a lot of times I've tried using Pinterest trends for my own content, I write a lot about like Pinterest and SEO, and they don't have any data for me, even though people are searching for it on Pinterest and I do get traffic for these topics. So kind of test out Pinterest trends, see if they have the information for you. If not, definitely just use the Pinterest search function itself, because that does have, a lot more searches that people have been interested in. So when you are kind of creating your Pinterest strategy, the main thing that you want to do is to pin consistently. So this means every single day, even if it's just one pin a day, kind kind of giving this or giving Pinterest content every single day will show Pinterest that your account is active. If you pin, every day for a month and then you don't touch Pinterest for 2 months, your traffic is, going to decrease. Pinterest doesn't know that you're active on Pinterest anymore. So you do want to make sure no matter how many pins you're pinning, at least once a day. You do want to test out, how many pins that you are able to pin a day. A lot of times, most recently, people have had most success with pinning fewer times a day. So, between like 2 and 5 times a day. If you have a ton of content that you want to be putting on Pinterest, you can definitely pin more than that. If you don't have a lot of content, test out just pinning once a day as you start to build up the content on your site. So it does require some testing to see what works specifically for your industry and also what works for, the content that you already have on your site. So when I'm talking about content, you do want to make sure you have a goal surrounding whatever content that you have. So if you have a podcast that you want to be promoting on Pinterest, get more podcast listeners, things like that. Definitely focus whatever content that you're creating around your podcast. If you have a YouTube channel, focus your content around that. I do recommend, for things like podcasts or YouTube, creating blog posts from that content. So if you have a podcast, you can just create a blog post with your transcript, or you can, turn it into a blog post or something like that. But that way you have the content that lives on your site, which is beneficial for SEO, but also it makes it easier to track, how many visitors you're getting, what people are doing once they're on your website. So, if they do go to your podcast, blog post or something like that, you can track to see if they go visit other blog posts or other pages on your website, or if they just, leave your site. So you do want to make sure that your content is living on your site if you're able to do that. With YouTube, you can just create a blog post, add some text around whatever the video is about, and embed it directly on a blog post. It's not super time consuming to add the new content to your site. If you want to get more email subscribers or things like that, make sure whatever content you're creating is related to whatever emails you're sending out. So if you have an email list and you're sending out tips for marketing, having a blog post that's about brand design might not quite match. So make sure whatever you're emailing about matches your content. You can also make sure that at the end of blog posts or within it somewhere, you have an option to sign up for your email list to help encourage people to sign up. And then you can also create landing pages on your website, and you can link directly to those landing pages for people to sign up to get your freebie, your lead magnet, or whatever it is you have to offer to sign up for your email list. And then you can pin from other websites if you want to, or if you kind of need to build up that content on Pinterest if you don't have a lot of content on your own site right now. You definitely don't have to. This was, kind of something Pinterest encouraged a couple of years ago, but you don't have to pin from other websites anymore. If you, have tons of your own content, go for it. But again, if you either, want to help promote some, other businesses that or something like that, or if you want to be able to pin consistently and you just don't have a lot of content right now, you can pin from other sites. You can also repin your own top performing pins every few months or every few weeks to kind of give it a boost in traffic. I don't recommend, repinning the same pin every single day for a week or something like that, because that can look really spammy to Pinterest. And then if you do have, only a couple pieces of content, you can create multiple graphics for them because that does look like fresh content to Pinterest because you're, putting out different images for them. So you can start off with, maybe a couple and then add more, as you go on. You definitely don't need to create 50 different graphics per blog post every time you create a new blog post. You can just create 2 to 5 or something like that, and then build up the graphics as you have more time. And then I also recommend adding social media sharing buttons to your website. This will help encourage, people who visit your website to pin your content or, go check out your Pinterest and, hopefully follow you. And this can help, kind of boost your Pinterest traffic as well if you're getting other people to pin your content. So for products products are a little bit different than, kind of creating graphics for a blog post or something like that. And it probably requires a little bit more testing because there are so many different types of pictures that you can take of products, them being used, or if it's a physical product, like just the product sitting on a table or something like that. One thing that works better on Pinterest rather than on Instagram is to actually have images that don't show people's faces. Obviously, unless it's like you're selling makeup or hair products or something like that. Whereas on Instagram, showing people's faces gets the most engagement. But on Pinterest, people like to focus on the product itself and not the person, maybe using the product. So you can definitely test out having images. You can see even in this example, the top ranking web pictures in it don't show anyone from like their neck up. So people like to focus on the product itself when on Pinterest. And then if you have different product categories, you can test out creating graphics for them, maybe having a graphic with a few different images of your products, kind of like whatever you want to test out to see if it performs well, because different things will perform well for different types of products. And you do want to make sure that when you are describing the product in the pin title and pin description, that you're adding specific details to it, like especially if it's a category that people would be searching for on Pinterest. So like if it's a vegan leather or something like that, rather than just regular leather, that's important for someone to know in the description. The price is important to know because sometimes what people think a product costs isn't actually what it does cost. So you want to make sure that you're matching their expectations with that. And then I do recommend creating content on your blog post. You can do things like having gift guides, or write about the benefits of whatever product you have to offer, answer people's questions about it, because people might be searching for kind of like ideas or for answers rather than for a specific product. So that way you can capture these different types of audiences in different ways. So there are lots of different things that you can kind of test out for products. If you are on Shopify, you can directly upload your product's catalog onto Pinterest. That works pretty well for some people, especially if you don't have a lot of content to start with. So that way, when people are searching for products, they can come across your catalog. And so there are a few different types of pins that we'll go into. So first one is video pins. These were pretty popular like a year or two ago. I'll say Pinterest does seem to be moving away from video pins. Except for ads. Video pins for ads are still performing pretty well. If you do want to test out video pins, like if you have, something that's, very visual, like a product or, something like that, you can still test them out. But I will say that things like the click-through rate from video pins are lower than regular images because people tend to watch the video and kind of get what they need from the video. So you do want to make sure that you're not showing absolutely everything in the video, that people still need kind of like a reason to click over to your website. Video pins that are square actually perform better than like the vertical images. So that's something to kind of like test out. And then also videos without sound work better. Like I mentioned, Pinterest and Instagram are sometimes opposite. So videos on Instagram with sound work better, but on Pinterest, it's without sound that tends to work better. But again, test things out to kind of see what works best for your type of business. And idea pins are the latest addition to Pinterest. This is something they started testing out, I think a year and a half ago, and they started rolling it out more and focusing it on. So this is kind of more of a social media feature, but I will say Pinterest has made some changes to it recently. So before it was very similar to Instagram stories, where you would have like a series of photos or videos or a combination of the two that people would see in the image. You can kind of see very similar to Instagram, where you see it at the top of the feed and you can kind of click on different profiles to watch them. But they also integrated them into the search feed. So if you had an idea pin and you can add the Pinterest title into it and things like that, if it matched what people are searching for, your idea pin could actually be viewed in the Instagram feed by kind of anyone who's searching for that topic. And people can save them. They can also comment or react to them, and they don't disappear after 24 hours. So that is different from like Instagram stories. So they will stay on your profile. So what people didn't like about idea pins for a really long time is they weren't able to have any links to them. So people would just be able to watch them, but then they wouldn't be able to visit your website from that. So people had to get creative about, directing people to their profile to click on, their link, but then it wouldn't take them directly to a piece of content. So in the last, I think, 2 weeks, Pinterest announced that they are adding links to idea pins. So this is something that's still being rolled out. So I would say probably the majority of accounts don't have this right now. None of my clients have access to this yet. So hopefully in the next couple of months, all accounts will have access to be able to link to idea pins. So this is literally a brand new feature, which will hopefully be, definitely beneficial for both, Pinterest users, but also, businesses to help, drive more traffic rather than kind of posting pretty videos or images and not being able to get any traffic from that. So Pinterest has its own analytics system. I do recommend still, if you don't have Google Analytics set up, I recommend getting that set up. And then you can also track your Pinterest traffic there. Google Analytics is important because you can kind of see what people are doing once they are on your site. So how long they're staying if they come from Pinterest, how many pages they're visiting and things like that. But Pinterest Analytics is also beneficial for showing kind of like the specific pins that are driving the most traffic and things like that. So you can see kind of like the overall traffic, the overall Pinterest pin saves. One metric that you can view is the impressions. So this is the number of people who have seen your pins. So you can track it, kind of like month to month, or you can go, back 6 months to kind of see your progression. This is also helpful for kind of tracking any seasonal changes. So if you do have a lot of, holiday content, then, you might see a drop off in the spring and summer, and then, kind of an increase in the fall and winter. So you can kind of track, the overall trends as well. So you can see the exact pins that are bringing, traffic to your site, or the exact pins that are getting saves. So this is important, especially if you're testing out a few different types of, maybe pin graphics, or if you're testing video pins or something like that. So you want to make sure that whatever is working the best on Pinterest is what you're focusing on. So if you, find that one type of pin or one topic is performing really well, then you want to make sure you're focusing on that. And something that isn't performing well, maybe don't continue testing out that design or something like that. So you can sort this, like I mentioned, through the traffic that it's bringing to your site, or the number of saves that they're getting. You can also see in the source category, this is your pins versus other pins. So that means that your pin is the pin that you yourself put on there on Pinterest, and then other pins is pins that other accounts have saved, maybe from your website that are bringing traffic. So this is helpful to see, kind of if you do have like social sharing buttons on your website, to make sure that they're working and that, they're driving traffic. And if everything I said is super overwhelming to be pinning every day, there are some different Pinterest scheduling tools. I think Planoly and Plan have added on Pinterest lately. Tailwind was kind of the original Pinterest scheduler, and that's still their focus. They do have an Instagram feature to it, but their focus is on Pinterest. The one thing that you can't do right now is schedule out idea pins. Those do need to be manually done in Pinterest, but everything else you can kind of schedule out on Tailwind. So that way you don't have to be manually pinning every single day. I try to schedule out pins, at least a few weeks to, a month in advance. So, that way I don't have to be actively on Pinterest like every single week, except for, something like idea pins. So Tailwind does create schedules for you, or you can create your own schedule. It's kind of, if you need help with it, Tailwind has that help integrated in it, or you can do your own thing. It also has its own analytics. It does have some helpful information, but I prefer looking at like Pinterest and Google Analytics. One thing that it does have over other Pinterest schedulers is something called communities, which we'll get into a little bit. But these are basically groups of people who are in the same niche or creating products or content that are, kind of similar topics. So that way, if you don't have a lot of content right now and you do want to make sure that you are pinning every single day, you can easily find, quality pins in your industry. And it's easy to, add them directly from the community to your Tailwind schedule rather than having to like kind of do it through Pinterest. Tailwind also has accountability, so it tracks how many pins you share versus how many of your pins other people are sharing. So that way you can see how many pins of your own are getting shared and pinned by other people. So that way if there's someone in the community who's just adding like 100 pins, but then they're not actually reciprocating and pinning other people's pins, then typically the community will be able to like kick them out or tell them they need to follow the rules or something like that. So it is beneficial both to be able to find quality content that's in a similar niche, but also to have your own content shared by these accounts. So that's kind of the main topics I want to cover in this presentation. So the main kind of takeaways, and again, you're going to get this presentation, so don't worry about like taking notes if you don't want to, but you want to make sure that everything that you're putting on Pinterest is on brand, testing out different keywords and designs, idea pins if that's something that you want to try out, especially as they're adding the new links to it. Make sure all the content that you're adding to Pinterest aligns with your business goals and don't just kind of create content for the sake of creating content. Pin consistently, and you can test out Tailwind to see if that helps keep you on schedule and saves you some time from manually pinning every day. And then one thing you do need to do is give Pinterest time to gain traction, because you're not going to see immediate results if you start pinning today. It definitely takes a couple of months to kind of like build up that traffic and build that trust with Pinterest. So if you do want to test out Pinterest, make sure you're pinning every day and give it at least a few months to see if it starts working for your business. And it will compound over time, which is beneficial, since the content that you're going to be putting on Pinterest will stay on Pinterest at least for months to maybe a couple of years. So that way, whatever you're doing today will help your business in the next few months. So you do need to give Pinterest time to kind of build up that traffic for you. If you have any Pinterest or SEO questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And if you want to follow me on Pinterest, you can also find me there at Julia Renee Consulting. All right, so what questions does everybody have?
Julia, just a minute before we jump into the question, I just want to inform our wonderful attendees that I did posted a 30-second survey about today's webinar. But we at Tempo SPDC will always cherish your feedbacks, even as it helps us to improve on the services we provide to you guys at a low cost. So can you take 30 seconds of your time to help us to fill out the survey, please? Yeah, we can continue with the question, because I can see 2 questions on the Q&A.
Okay, here we go. If you post on Pinterest, do all of your followers see your pin? So yes, unless you are pinning to like a secret board, then whatever you pin to a secret board, only you're going to be able to see. But anything that you pin to a public board, your followers will see. Other than Tailwind, the programs for scheduling pins. So I think Planoly might have it. Plan Later might. They're always being added onto different schedulers, so I'm not sure of all of them off the top of my head, but you can definitely see if you're currently using a social media scheduler, you can see if they have Pinterest added on. And then next question on here is, I guess I need to start a blog if I haven't done that yet. So yes, you do need to have content in order to be able to pin on Pinterest. If you have products, you can definitely use that if you don't currently have a blog, but you can't just pin your website pages like over and over again, and that doesn't really match what people are searching for in Pinterest. They're typically searching for, content or answers to their questions or something like that. It's a little different than Google, where people are searching specifically, maybe for a specific business or a specific service or something like that. I think there's some in the chat. Let me see. Okay, when you say pin, that includes content from other people, correct? You don't need to create new pins every day. Yeah, so that's up to you. So you can, if you don't have enough content or you don't have enough time to create pins every day, you can pin from other people, as long as it's, I would say consistently pinning once a day. Whatever you're able to do is typically what I recommend on Pinterest. Have you ever used Flipboard in a similar way? I'm guessing in a similar way to Pinterest. I personally have not used Flipboard. I'm not super familiar with Flipboard, so I'm not sure if it can be used similarly to Pinterest. All right. I don't have the inventory / pictures to pin daily. Why is daily so important? So daily is important to help, add new content to Pinterest, but also to show Pinterest that your account is active. You can, if you don't have like a ton of content right now, this is why you can pin from other people's websites to kind of build up that content on Pinterest. For pictures, depending on kind of what, whatever your industry is, you can use stock images for like creating pin graphics. They don't have to be your own images. I would say if it's like your own products, though, you probably want your own images. But if you're a business writing about marketing or something like that, you can definitely use just stock photos. That's what I use most of the time. Make sure they're like free stock photos and you're not just taking stock photos from iStock or something like that if you're not allowed to. So what about groups? I'm guessing this is group boards. Let me know if I'm not interpreting that right. So group boards, this is kind of why Tailwind started communities, because they have that accountability feature. Back in the day, group boards were pretty popular, but people weren't able to track if their content was being shared by other people at all. So people have kind of moved away from using group boards and using like Tailwind communities instead. All right, can you sell products on Pinterest? So you can't currently like purchase a product directly on the Pinterest platform, but you can upload products to Pinterest as pins, or if you are on Shopify, you can like integrate your catalog onto Pinterest. So, Pinterest will upload all of the photos and then people click on, the pin, the photo, and it will go to that specific product link. So they can't like enter their credit card information on the Pinterest platform itself, but you can link to products or, upload your catalog to Pinterest if you're on Shopify. Where do I create this blog that I would be pinning? So this would be on your website. If you don't currently have a website, I definitely recommend getting it set up for, especially for SEO purposes, but also to kind of like keep your website pages and your blog all in one place. You don't need to like start a second website just specifically for a blog if you already have a website. All right, what about the shorts on pins? Do you use them to drive business traffic? I'm not quite sure what you mean by shorts. If you want to add more information, or this is about like the video pins or idea pins, just let me know. And then what is the preferred size for square images? So typically there's no specific size, like I'm guessing you mean like pixels or megabytes that they need to be, typically for, as long as they're high quality. So I guess for square images, somewhere around like the 1,000 to 2,000 pixels on each side. I haven't run into any issues with like an image being too large to upload to Pinterest. All right, the shorts are video pins similarly seen on YouTube and TikTok. Yeah, so video pins, they haven't been performing as well lately, especially with the introduction of idea pins. They are typically used more for Pinterest ads than like organic pins. But again, definitely test that out to see if that works, for your business. But Pinterest has kind of moved away a little bit from video pins since adding the idea pins. All right, I think that's all the questions. Let me know if I missed any ones, and then we do still have time if there are more questions. Here we go. I think there's another one in the Q&A. Is there a blog platform that you recommend, possibly free or very easy? This will, I would say the website platform depends on a lot of different things. Blogging specifically, WordPress is typically the best blogging platform for businesses. There are tons of blogging features and everything like that. If you prefer something like Squarespace, they do have, they are improving their blog, but WordPress, has been the kind of blogging website for a long time. If you like being able to design websites, like, you can easily on like Squarespace. Showit is really great because the blogging platform still is on WordPress, but you have kind of more capabilities and it's easier to design with Showit. Wix, I would say, is probably like the cheaper of the like bigger website platforms. I don't love the blogging platform, and they kind of have a lot of issues, especially if you want to migrate to a different website platform in the future. So I would recommend, if you are looking for like super cheap or free, there's a free version of WordPress, and then it is easier to integrate to the paid version of WordPress if, whenever you're ready for that. All right. Any other questions?
Not really. Now, I'm sure we've actually touched the 4 questions on the Q&A. Okay, yeah, one just popped up.
Yeah. Does WordPress have blog templates? Yeah, so WordPress you can get free templates or paid templates. There are lots of different things on WordPress.
Okay, I'm just gonna give like a couple of minutes, maybe probably 3 or 4, to see if more questions will come up, and before we cut it off for the day. And I just posted a 30-second survey for the second time. For those of you that didn't see the first time I posted, I just posted it for the second time. Please kindly take 30 seconds of your time to help us to fill out the survey link about today's webinar. Hey, Cassie, I totally forgot to say hi to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Really appreciated the webinar. It was really good.
Thanks.
Okay, Julia, I guess without further ado and without no further question, we'll just wrap it up for the day. But before we do that, I just want to use Cassie. I don't know if you have 1 or 2 comments to make before we wrap it up.
No comments. Yeah, if you're interested in any other social media, you can always visit our website, and we can help with doing a social media audit of all the other social media platforms that are out there. So you can always go to our Temple SBDC website and you can check us out there as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Cassie. Before we wrap it up, I just want to use this opportunity to thank our wonderful speaker, Julia, for a wonderful presentation. I also want to thank my wonderful attendees. Thank you guys for keeping it a day with us. Cassie, thank you for joining us. I love the way the presentation actually went. It was more or less like an interactive section. And I did promise, either today or tomorrow, I'm going to send you guys a follow-up email with a copy of the PowerPoint and the link to the recording. Finally, I want to thank my wonderful Tempo SPDC colleague for their wonderful support. Without them, we wouldn't have been here. And this webinar wouldn't have come into existence. Thank you and do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.